maybe Mr. Afnan, allow me to start the ball rolling by asking a question. This is directed to Dr. Uh, Sid said, a Norwegian turned Australian. Um, Very interesting. In Australia, I had a few engagement with Australian co-op, those in the rice grower, where they were doing the whole supply chain from farm to shelf, because they even own the marketing arm, which market their product, the rice, all over the world, the jasmine rice.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So very interesting. This is one model that we in Malaysia failed to undertake. The Japanese, through their JA, is doing quite well in that sense. But what is the motivating factor for Australian co-ops, especially the agricultural co-ops, to be able to work together and taking up the whole supply chain from shelf, farm to shelf? What is the motivating factor for them to work together? Thank you.
Well, I know you are talking about the Cooperative Bulk Handling Co-op, which is Australia's largest agricultural co-op, and I would almost say that it is an exceptional co-op because it's so large and it's been going on for many decades. I have to reveal then that there has been other initiatives trying to do the same. in both in Victoria and also in New South Wales on the East Coast, but it has been very difficult. So they are in a way quite unique in the way they have managed to establish this cooperative supply chain, as you may say. There were earlier, I think 30 years ago, there were other supply chains that were owned by co-ops, but they demutualized because, of course, and this is really important, when a co-op owns that many assets, the takeover threat is imminent, and it's there almost every year. And it is only because the cooperative bulk handling have managed to have a constitution that makes it, what should I say, that makes it difficult makes it more difficult to demutualize based on a few people's, what should I say, lobbying inside the co-op. So this is it's a very good question, and it's kind of complicated to answer, but you will know that there has been takeover bids on cooperative bulk, CBH as we call it, at least three times just within the last I think 10 to 5 years. And then the way to be able to avert that is to keep your members aware of the benefits of a co-op and what is the risk of not having the co-op, because you know what you have, but you don't know what you're going to get. And members will always think, oh, maybe I can get a better deal if this was a corporation. But I think being very clear about the benefits of a co-op is very important in that sense. And it's also geography. I mean, Western Australia is very isolated actually from the rest of Australia. So the supply chain there is, it was maybe easier. There's less competition, so to speak. There's 4,000 grain farmers that they supply and support, and they have been. And the interesting thing about CBH is that it is what we call a non-distributive co-op. So their profit has been put back in the co-op, and they have invested in the infrastructure and buying up infrastructure. So railways, storage, they have a very advanced transport logistics tracking system. No, they are very advanced co-op actually. Yeah. But it's complicated. But the issue of member awareness and also a constitution that makes it not so vulnerable for a minority of members to go for demutualization. And that is about democratic governance, really. So many elements in your question. I can't answer all of them, but it's a big success story, and I know they supply a lot of countries in Asia with their products or their produce. Yeah, I hope I answered some of your question.
Yes, doctor. Thank you. Because that is one of my. I'm very amazed with how they have managed, and they employed some of the best professionals to run it for them, and they have the most latest technology in grain management, in milling and things like that. Thank you for the answer. Well, if there's any more further, I'll take it on sideline to ask you further. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Okay, we saw a question in our chat box, okay, from Haslinda Suja, okay. She got two questions. Haslinda Suja, go on.
Okay, hi everyone.
Hi.
Thank you very much to all the speakers, very excellent papers, presentations. I have two questions, one for Encik Azrin from Co-Operative. Encik Azrin, I want to have your opinion on how can a cooperative that involved with tourism to sustain or to survive during this period, do they need to still do the marketing during this hard time, although they cannot receive customer during this time? Okay, so is it still need to do the marketing during this time, and how can how should they do the marketing? Okay, that is the first question. Okay, second question for Dr. Cecil. I'm happy to know that there is also enterprise cooperative in Australia. So we have quite numbers of enterprise cooperative in Malaysia. So can you share further what are their roles to help the small businesses? So what is the enterprise cooperative function? Because small businesses, they have their own business, so they can do their own marketing and operations. But why they need enterprise cooperative? That's my question.
Okay, thank you, Haslinda. Okay, I think we start. Mr. Azrin.
Hi, Aslinda. Thank you for the question. Okay, of course, during this outbreak, so the marketing is very important. So as I mentioned earlier, so be it at home or in the office, the marketing is still ongoing. So the best tool to use during this time is Facebook and Instagram. So that is the cheapest alternative that you can use for current moment. So okay, as I mentioned also, that means your posting or advertising need to consistent. So let's say with one product, be it travel agent product or any other product, so at least minimum 4 posting a day. So you can do it more 2 posting in the morning and 2 posting in the afternoon or evening. So it's up to your team. But each and everyone in your team need to communicate and do their best lah. I mean, work as a team so that there will be, no redundance on the posting. So as I agree. Let's say if you use the for current moment, there's a lot of youngsters or easy to see or from the Instagram lah. So I prefer to use Instagram instead of Facebook. So unless you have Facebook, then you can use Facebook lah. So marketing is very important. So there are two type of marketing in Instagram or Facebook. Either you can sponsor or you can use the free marketing as well. So that is the idea here. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Azrin. And then I think Dr. Excel can continue.
Yes, Haslinda. It's a good question. So I can talk about HunterNet, which is the one that is a local enterprise co-op here. It was established when our big iron smelter went down and the boat building business all closed down. So this was a huge problem. There were like 10,000 people employed in those big cornerstone businesses. But there was all this skills and knowledge about manufacturing. Yeah. So HunterNet was established to support the small manufacturing businesses that were supplying these big cornerstone companies with. It was different metalworks, engineering solutions, trade and supplies. And what they focused on was how can we help these small businesses collaborate was number one. And how can they go together and suggest a solution, for instance, to supply, I don't know, we have a business here building locomotives for railways. So how can we go together and build different parts and supply that? But this one small company couldn't do that. But when in collaboration with another or two other or three other, they could build they could suggest a solution, a collaborative solution. So HunterNet actually helped in suggesting collaborative tenders. So that was one thing. HunterNet also has an ear very close to grants and new projects and new contracts, a lot, and government contracts, for instance, for infrastructure development. HunterNet is also then very well aware of what are the tender rules. What are the requirements for filling in a tender document to explain what you want to do. What are the legal requirements? They have skills in that area. They have skills, and also because they know their members and their skills and competences so well, they say, I think you're a bit weak in this area. How about you collaborate with these guys? So they can, because they know their members so well, they say, these two they would complement each other and do a good tender for a contract. Whether this contract is for government or private business or big corporations and so on. And why do they know their members so well? Because they have around, and this is quite insane, they have, insane, but their activity level is very high. I think they have around 3 or 4 meetings every week. And and everybody, of course, don't go to every meeting. It's only for people who are interested. But they meet at each other's workplace. So they see, so this is what you do. Okay, so this is what you do. So they are they get very close to each other, because they also see what they are struggling with technically maybe and so on, and they help each other in a practical way just by knowing each other very well. So that was one thing. And then they do a lot of training. So they do training in OH&S, health, work, health and safety. They do training in environmental legislation. They do training in HR and yeah, HR policies and so on. And the last thing, which is quite interesting, they have teamed up with our university to do leadership training, because a lot of these small businesses, often they are established by a family, a couple. It's their family business. They are growing old, and and who's taking over? So they've teamed up with the university to develop leadership training for succession planning, which I think is very useful. So that was, yeah. So what has happened lately is that their training, their pure training part of the business has become a non-profit kind of self-sustaining business. But the network business, the enterprise co-op, is still there and very, very active. And the last thing, they also help small businesses with export or international, building in international alliances. So they have organized several trips to, I think, Vietnam. I don't know if they've been to Malaysia, but Vietnam, certainly, Thailand, I think also China, yeah.
All right. We got another question from our chat box from Abdul Rahman Andi. Abdul Rahman Andi is here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Mr. Rahman, can you
post your question?
Yes.
And to whom is directed to?
I just wanted to ask the question on Madam. I'm from Australia.
Australia.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to ask, what strategies can you suggest that will serve as an initial step in consolidating efforts of cooperative instead of competing from each other? Because in the Philippines, there are many small cooperatives existing, but they compete from each other. If we could only consolidate the efforts of cooperatives, small cooperatives, we can really make a difference in the lives not only of the member, but the whole country or the whole community will benefit from it. And now, I'm more concerned of what strategies can you suggest in order to consolidate those efforts that we have.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rahman. So this question you want to pass to
Dr. Sisel.
Dr. Sisel, is it?
Yes, precisely.
So Dr. Sisel, please.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have read the history of HunterNet, for instance, and I know it was through through crisis in a way that they were forced to collaborate because so many people had lost their jobs and their livelihoods. So, but they also were very adamant that there were so much skills and competences there that could be used if you collaborated. I guess it demands good leadership and maybe and maybe a certain level of transparency and also sticking to the and this was really important. So one of the membership meetings that I went to in the HunterNet was that they said, you know, the cooperative these are the cooperative principles, and they kept saying. They kept going back to the cooperative principles and say, this is what we believe in, this is what we are about. And we want to stick to that. We want to make sure that you are part of the decision-making part of, but also that you collaborate for the benefit of the whole cooperative. I think maybe another reason is that it was regional. So people knew each other from before, so it was embedded in the region. I think that helps a lot. Yeah. I don't know. It's about leadership, regional, but we have co-ops that compete here as well. But there is, I feel that there is a change, a little bit of a change, not all, even before COVID. And I think it comes from strong peak bodies pushing for and marketing and promoting the cooperative principles in a strong way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sisel.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Ramabi, last question.
we just can take last question because time is moving very fast. So last question from our chat box, from Rahmat
Zarinatun.
B. Zarinatun. Zarinatun.
Okay, hello everyone. Just one last question for Dr. Sharina Abdul Halim. How bad is Langkawi tourism is affected during this crisis?
Thank you so much, Ms. Rahmadbi, for your question. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you've been to Langkawi, right?
Yeah.
So you know that it's pretty bad actually, to be honest. But people in Langkawi are very keeping their hopes and optimism alive. As you know that in Langkawi, there are more than 4,000 business, all dependent. This is small, medium, big, everything, right? And there are many efforts ongoing to boost the tourism in Langkawi back. Because as you see, now we are in Malaysia, we are going on our third wave. But in Langkawi, so far, there are, Alhamdulillah, thank God, that the number of COVID patients are not high at all. In fact, in the second wave, there was only 4 patients, and in the first wave, there was only 1, and currently there is none in Langkawi, no COVID cases in Langkawi. But you are right, how bad it is only the people in Langkawi will be fair to say that, how bad it is for them. For us who are looking from far, can only empathize and pray for them and work together with for people for us in University Kebangsaan Malaysia, particularly for Langkawi Research Centre. We will still push hard, working with the local cooperatives, especially with the fishing cooperatives group, to mobilize them and to motivate them and to work together with them along and do whatever we can to boost back the tourism industry in Langkawi. So that is what we are doing at the moment, and we're using a lot of social media. So Encik Azrin was right. Marketing still need to go on and need to be very innovative and creative and consistent. I think that the
Yeah.
difficulty is also consistency actually. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharina. All right. Before we end the session, I would like to call Mr. Roslan Bani Amin, Director General, Cooperative Institute of Malaysia, to wrap up about this webinar. Please welcome Mr. Roslan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Afnan. A very well run session. I'm very pleased that this is our first experience, and when I look at the number of people that is in this webinar, the number has been consistent between 55 to 60. Of course, when you run the webinar, there are sometimes people that have to leave for a while and enter back. And I'm also very pleased to see that most of my staff in CIM is online. That shows that not because of me, I hope, but it's because of the quality of this webinar that we carry out. Honestly, to me, this is very, very enlightening. Especially we set the pace with the sustainable SDG by Mr. Nasir Khan, setting the pace. Then we have we have Azrin specifically answering to situation. How did they handle situation during the COVID-19 pandemic? Then we have Dr. Sarina, which is very focused on the Langkawi experience, which is, of course, everybody knows tourism is the worst hit situation. Within the cooperative movement in Malaysia, I think about 17% of our cooperative movement in Malaysia, from the total of 14,000, are involved in tourism, and they are the worst hit. And I like when Dr. Sisat came in to give us hope. The cooperative movement is still the way forward, and especially in this pandemic period. That is a good enlightening feeling for all of us, especially we activists in this movement. It still gives us hope. We don't know what the future will lie, but at least there are some tips and examples that has been given that I think all of us appreciate, and all of us can use this as a way forward in helping the cooperative movement. Thank you very much, and I'm very, very pleased that we hold this. Actually, we are supposed to have it for 2 hours, but we extended till almost 3 hours, and I can still see everybody still online. That shows that the 4 speakers that we have invited has really attract and make the audience listen very religiously. So with that, I thank you very, very much to the 4 speakers, Mr. Nasikan, which is also my director, Dr. Sarina, uh, uh, Dr. Sarina from UKM, yeah? You must have known Fitri quite well, I suppose. Fitri was also from your cooperative there. Then not forgetting Azrin. Azrin is one of the management of Copetro, and how he has managed. Actually, he's the worst hit. His company should be the worst hit, but he still managed to survive, managed to control costs, and still all your staff is still employed, be it contract or permanent. And finally, Dr. Sisel, with your background, cooperative is in your blood. When you say you're from Norway, I knew for the certain it is in your blood. And thank you very much for enlightening us with some of your experiences with the Australian cooperative movement. So without much apnea, I leave it back to Mr. Afnan. Thank you very much, everybody.